Hi good people, Titus here for part 5 of our Teleportation Pad mini-series, and in this video, we'll be continuing our sculpting journey as we add details to our base model and the rivets. Let's not waste any time and jump right into it. Alright, so last we left off we did the accent pieces. We'll go ahead and come back here and we're going to be working on the base as well as the rivets. So we'll select the base, make sure it's highlighted, and make sure we're working in the high poly. So it should be fairly dense. We'll go into sculpting, / isolate, and then the first thing we can do is you'll notice there's some kind of weird artifacting here. There's a couple ways you can address that. You can remesh to a higher value, but I think for me, I'm just going to try and smooth them out. So I'll go to my grab brush, and then I'm going to size it out. I'm going to go to my mirror. I'm going to add a mirror in the X as well as the Y. So I kind of have this going on. And then from front view, I'll kind of zoom in so I can kind of see the spacing here. And then I'm just going to hold shift and I'm going to just come around and just kind of wash that out. And then I'll pass and do a second round, kind of like that. We're going to lose some of the detail, but it'll get rid of the kind of the weird jagged edges, which I think looks worse anyway. So, and then same thing on the outer ring. Come around, just like that. And if we go to layout, you can see it looks a little bit better. We got some pinching right here, so we'll go back to sculpting, and I can kind of see it right there. Although I think I built up too much there. There we go. That looks better. We're going to be doing the same thing on this edge here in a second as well. But I think for now, let's go ahead and see if we can add some detail. So we'll get out of the mirror. And I think for this one, come out of / Alright, so we got one piece and then the two pieces on the side here. Let's go into our specialty brush here. Remember, we set this one up to have an anchor brush or an alpha texture. Looks like we were last using a slash, so this time I'm going to pick something different. Maybe I'll try something like this. Remember, your alpha textures you can get from a number of locations like ArtStation, Pixelogic, textures.com. You can make your own if you have Photoshop and some like environmental pictures. You can just basically bring the contrast up on a black and white, or turn the image black and white and then bump the contrast. And you can just create these sort of alpha textures and bring them in and use them. So they're very handy. And I think for my strength, I'm going to try bringing it down to a 0.6. I'm going to do a random texture, and then my stroke is going to be anchored. So if I drag it out, kind of get something like that. And then if we come back into layout, / you can kind of see it right there. Although it seems a little bit light, so I think I'll undo that. And then I'm going to increase the size of my brush, maybe somewhere around there. There we go. Give me a little extra detail. And I'm just going to bump around here. And then what I have to do is I have to come from the side, and then I have to add it on the side because we were in top view. Kind of like that. And it's a random circle, so you can just kind of layer over parts that you've already gone. That's alright. It'll actually blend in pretty well for the most part. And then I'll do one over here. come back to top view, go back to layout. Oops. And then looking at the layout here, we're left with something like that. A little bit interesting there. Now we got some issues around the circle bits here. We can come back into our item. And what we probably should have done is smooth these down as well. So we can go back to G, resize our brush, and I'm actually going to enable the mirror on the X. That way I can do both sides at once. So when I'm going around here, because this was originally a mirrored object, so. And then I'm just gonna hold Shift, which actually before I forget, let me turn on screencast. Hold Shift here and just kind of clean up some of these jagged edges. So if you use an alpha brush, sometimes if your geometry is a little harsh when you're adding the brush, like you're going on a 90-degree angle, it'll do some weird jagged angles. But you can just usually smooth them out. You'll lose some of the detail in the area, but that's all right. Just kind of like that. Maybe a little bit right there. And that's kind of the difference you get, right? You get this little bland spot here, which is, it'll catch the light a lot better rather than the sharp angle. Hold the smooth brush there. And remember, you can use your smooth brush from any brush, just hold the Shift key. I just happen to be using it with the grab brush. Alright, and then if we look on this side, it's already done that for us, so we can turn off the mirror. And then we're left with this sort of interesting element. So, nothing too crazy. But let's do something for the other side. So we'll go back to our specialty brush, and then I'm going to change it to, maybe I'll do, I think we did 16, so let's try 17, see what that does. And then this time, I'm gonna bump the strength all the way up. And I'm gonna try coming at the side. So I'll zoom in here. This is probably going to do a little bit of damage, so we'll have to clean it up a bit, but let's try something like that. I'm trying to get like a burn mark. Yeah, there we go. You can see a little bit there. So maybe if I hit it again, just from the side, that might be too much. I think what I'll do is I'll undo that, and let me try from over here. How does that look? That looks kind of interesting. Maybe what I can do is bring the brush down, bring straight to maybe 0.7. Come to the top view and then hit it from right here. It'll kind of layer with the one on the side. And then maybe you have this interesting element where it's kind of pushed in, but it kind of shoots over like it's burned a little bit. So yeah, I think I'm all right with that. Now we do have to clean up some of the geo there on the inside. So let's go back. I'll switch to my grab brush, bring it real small. And we can just zoom in and just hold Shift and try to clean up some of these elements here. And check any of these too if they got a little bit too pushed, too damaged or too messed up. You can just wash out the detail a bit and then just walk it back. So. Alright, so we added some interesting detail there. You could add some extra cuts if you wanted to. I think the cuts on the metal piece, I'm just going to do it on the metal pieces, and then I'm going to leave the base kind of alone. I'm just going to do more of a weathered effect. I'm going to do some kind of like gashes though, but I'm going to do that around this little rectangular element that we made earlier. So let's try that now. So I'll bring it back into isolation mode with /, and I'm going to turn on my X mirror. I'm going to try to clean up these edges with our smooth brush. Kind of like that. You notice the bottom is a little jagged. It's probably alright because when you put it in the game, you're going to dig it down a bit. So it's probably not that big of an issue, but if you want to clean it up, just enable your X and Y. And then what you can do is shift select and then just smooth it out. We're going to have to turn it over a bit. Kind of like that. That way it's not so pronounced. Alright, I'm going to turn my mirrors off. I'm going to go to my clay strips, which I like to call the claw. And then my strength's 0.6, I'm going to go in the minus. So I'm going to dig in. And I'm going to go pretty small with my brush. And I'm basically just going to add these little kind of gashes around the geometry here. And then if you go too much, you can shift, kind of white it out or wash it out. Although I kind of like a little bit of detail in there. And then maybe I'll do one over there. I think that looks kind of interesting. And then what we can do is come back over here and under our brush, you can go back to our cut. And 0.7, I think that I will actually maybe go full strength, make the brush bigger. And I'm going to pick somewhere, maybe right around there. That looks alright. And then I can come in with my draw sharp brush, make it real small, and then just pinch it in, kind of like that. Alright, so if we go back to layout and get another look at our shape, you can see our damage is kind of pulling in. It's probably a bit too much, but you can see it adds some interesting details around the rectangular piece here. And then we got the nice texture effects on the side and our accent pieces. So I think now we could probably move on to the rivets. I think this is already probably too much, but it's at least demonstrating the effects for you guys, so you can kind of see it in action. So what we'll do is we will select the rivet, and we'll go into sculpting, / bring in isolation mode. And I am going to use that same cut, I think, from top view. I think what I will do is keep the brush real small and then just come around and hit different parts of the rivets. I think a lot of the detail on the rivets is going to be lost. It's a very small mesh. So pretty much most of what you do here may not even be seen. But that's okay. Maybe we'll do 2 on this one. Alright, nothing too fancy there. Now we can go in and I like to use my grab brush, and you can just kind of mess up the shape a bit. you know, nothing too crazy. This one right here, I can go back to my clay strips and then maybe dig in a bit. Probably a bit too much, but that's all right. And then maybe use my grab brush, pull a little bit in there, and just kind of dent the rivets around. Push in there, push down. And this one doesn't have anything, so maybe I'll add the clay strips. And I'll do maybe another cut. Although it's hard to get the clay strips to actually act on it because it's such a small mesh. I think that looks pretty good, actually. Alright, and then let's go back to our grab brush. Pull that around. And then just denting. Oops, I'll undo that one. There we go. Alright, so then we can come back to our layout and take one final look. Do an Alt-A to deselect everything. And then your rivets look a bit more interesting. Although it's probably a bit much, but demonstrates some of the effects you can do. A lot of these alpha brushes are powerful, so I highly recommend them. They definitely can help with your modeling. Alright, so now we basically went from this low poly, which is, you know, it's fine. It'll work for anything you need it to be. And then we basically duplicated it, added geo, and then we added some extra detail using the sculpt method. So you can just basically, you know, see the difference there. So this looks a little bit more visually appealing. The other thing to note too is we're going to steal all of this geo, so you can see it's very dense. It's 3.2 million triangles. So you know, it's a very expensive asset, so we wouldn't be able to take this in game, but we can take that detail and then bake it onto a texture map and then assign it to this object, which is only 12,000 triangles. So it's a much cheaper asset to run in game. So all right, people, we'll cut it here. In the next video, we'll begin the UV unwrapping process and color ID tagging the model. That'll allow us to prepare for the texturing process. We can add some color to it. But I hope you enjoyed the vid, and as always, thanks for watching, consider subscribing, and see you on the next one.